All right. Good morning and welcome everybody to the Health Transformation webinar. This is Cade Archibald, your host, and with me we got Regan here. Regan, how are you?
Good. Hey, everybody. Good to be here. We drove
Awesome.
drove through a massive blizzard this morning just to arrive.
Hey,
It, it
it's like nasty weather here in St. George too.
yeah,
Was blizzarding up there?
yeah. It's crazy. I woke up to snow falling off my house, and it sounded like an avalanche, and the dog started barking, row row, and it covered one of our windows, and that big window on the east side of my house is like halfway filled up, so it's all dark
Wow.
in the front of my house. Crazy, crazy snow season here in Utah.
Love it. All right. Well, today you guys are in for a big treat. We're going to be diving into, yes, last week we talked a little bit more about mold and Lyme, more mold. Today we're going to dive more into Lyme.
Yeah,
So,
we'll splice it together. I just wanted to finish, and I think this will be a continuation on some infectious diseases for a minute here. But if you remember, Cade, just to give people a recap, what is it? Is it Lyme? Is it mold? How do you really know? What
okay.
percentage is mold? What's Lyme?
Ooh, let's see. Does it say it there? What's approximately 24%?
Let's let's go back through. It's okay
Yeah.
because we think that at least half of unresolved Lyme cases could be linked to mold illness, and so it's a huge number. And even
Wow.
in some cases, what we're finding is that if patients have this methylation issue, they're going to be more predisposed to having mold and Lyme toxicity than people who don't have certain genetic variants. And so one of those variants is the MTHFR, and that's a big one. That's what you've got. I've got it. And then we've got the human leukocyte antigen. So these are two of those variants that can show up that make you more susceptible to Lyme, more susceptible to mold. And this is where my whole case of me being a diva when I'm in hotels or when I'm in a moldy room, like our last Go Wellness event, at the end, I was like, by Saturday morning, I felt so sick from being in that room Friday that I was like, man, this is not good. And then by Sunday, I was like, yep, it's the mold. This room's got mold toxicity deluxe. So there, now I proved my case of being a diva because I got the variants.
That's right.
Okay, so hopefully now everyone's caught up. What we're going to do is just kind of continue on this conversation because I don't know how many of you have actually tested your genetics to see what's going on with your variants, but even if you haven't, one of the things that we talked about is this substance called synapsin, and synapsin is it's made by Dr. Lavelle. He's a pharmacist, and he created this concoction where it's got three ingredients, and these ingredients have been proven to disrupt some of the mold exposure that you may have had. And it's also good if you've had Lyme disease, because if you have Lyme, you're going to have a lot of these same issues as people who have had mold or mycotoxin issues. And synapsin is made from methylcobalamin or hydroxycobalamin. Synapsin's made from the ginsenginoids. So those are the active ingredients in ginseng. And then it's also, it's got NAD in it. And this is nicotinic adenosine something. I'm sorry, it's not in front of me. But NAD is one of those compounds that they've been studying for longevity and actually really helping promote better health. And so get yourself some synapsin. But the first step is, let's see what is going on in your body, because if you look at it, 24% of the normal population carry this HLA defect, making you more susceptible to this mold illness. And then once you have the mold or the Lyme exposure, then you're going to end up with this chronic inflammatory respiratory syndrome or SIRS. And so we don't want you to have that. So, all right. So Cade, let's talk about where you can get some mold inflammation and where this all comes from. We talked about Dr. Shoemaker's formula. I believe this is where we ended last time. But before we start, does anyone have any questions? Do you have any questions about understanding if you have Lyme or if you have mold, how to test it? If not, let's jump in. But some of the symptoms. Oh, go ahead, Cade.
Regan, do you want to? I'll share the screen on Instagram if you just want to accept my request.
Okay. And I see the Instagram. Where do I accept? Is it on the smiley face or?
Let me resend it.
Okay. And thanks for joining us, everybody. Really a pleasure to have you guys here. Hopefully, I know a lot of you live in Utah. Hopefully, at least someone on this program today is in some good weather. It's been a long winter.
All right, don't worry about it.
Okay, we'll get it next time. Okay, so mold. This is where we finished last time. We talked about mold can cause sleep disturbances. So, do you have sleep disturbances? Do you have immune dysregulation, food sensitivities, irritable bowel? Do you have this severe fatigue? Do you have a decreased vitamin D metabolism? So this can be an increased viral activity if you do. Do you have fatigue, low libido? You know, low testosterone can be some of the symptoms of mold inflammation. It can also go with Lyme. Do you have diminished motivation? Do you have, a genetic predisposition? All these things are really important to look at. And most important is, do you have a history of exposure to mold or water damaged buildings? Because at least 50% of the buildings in the United States have some kind of mold or water damage in there. And so this is, it's going to be most of us. And I always use the sniff test. Are my eyes swelled up? Do I wake up with a lot of goop in my eyes? This is when you know you've had some type of exposure to Lyme or mold or some type of allergy. So one of the other supplements you can take, or one of the other peptides, synapsin is the one that we've used substantially. I've used it over the last year. The other one is this vasoactive intestinal peptide made by Dr. Richie Shoemaker. And this one's amazing because it helps you produce the adrenal hormones naturally. It helps create some balance in your hypothalamic, pituitary, and adrenal axis. And then it will also, if your vitamin D levels, if they're low and you're not metabolizing vitamin D and you're like, man, I'm taking a ton of vitamin D, why is it always showing up low in my blood work? Well, this will help you metabolize it. Or if you have some type of chronic viral infection, this vasoactive intestinal peptide. And these, once again, synapsin and BIP, I think I mentioned this on the last presentation, but these are prescription-based medications right now. You cannot get them just over the counter. These peptides, there's a whole new branch of medicine for those. But VIP, it can help you naturally raise your testosterone levels. It also helps raise melatonin, so it helps balance the circadian rhythms. Cade, anything else that would help people balance circadian rhythms, get their vitamin D exposure up, some simple lifestyle things that they can do to counteract some Lyme or mold exposure?
Yeah, so along with those, time-restricted eating can be really good for circadian rhythms. And then just making sure your cortisol and your adrenals are healthy. So different adaptogenic herbs.
Yep.
Yeah, exercise.
Exercise is an excellent way. Get out in the sun in the morning, go for a walk, unless it's a blizzard, and that walk could mean you get taken up by a car or you twist an ankle. But these are great ways of getting your circadian rhythms balanced. Really important. Like everything in life and in health, we can get really complex and nuanced in the diagnosis and really just like focus in on, do you have mold? Do you have Lyme? But it's really important to get the right treatment. But always the treatment is, let's get the lifestyle things taken care of. Let's get your circadian rhythms balanced out. Let's get you out in the sun in the morning. That's, let's get you following that pattern of the sun and the moon. So you're sleeping really well. That's going to restore things faster than any peptide, any nasal spray, any stem cell injection, whatever we do for you. So now let's talk about the Lyme part of it. So Lyme spirochetes, they make a toxin that dissolves in your fat tissue, and it can take a long time to get it out. So one of the favorite places that Lyme likes to bury its little head, these spirochetes, are kind of like screw shaped. If you look at them, they look really creepy. They look kind of like an eel in the ocean, and they bury themselves in the brain tissue, because your brain is made up of, do you remember the stat, Cade? I think it's like 57% of your brain is made up of fat.
Yeah.
So it's a really fatty tissue. And a quarter of your brain is made of cholesterol. And these spirochetes, they get in there, and it's very difficult to get those out, because what they do is they create this little tent, and it's called a biofilm. So if you ever haven't brushed your teeth, I mean, I talk to Cade about brushing his teeth all the time, and I'm like, can't you feel that biofilm? It feels like moss.
Yeah.
Are you getting better at brushing your teeth, or?
It's still, just occasional. Dental health's not that important to your
It's
health.
really not. I mean, you could just have a heart attack, and you can have infectious diseases all over, and really bad halitosis. Otherwise, it's totally safe to have poor dental hygiene, right? All right, but if you've got that little biofilm, you guys can feel it on your teeth. That is exactly what bacteria do to try to protect themselves from your immune system. Because your immune system, you've got all these neutrophils, these eosinophils, and macrophages. They want to come in there and just like destroy any infection. And so what happens is, and the Lyme does this too in your brain, is they pitch these biofilms, and it's really hard to break through the biofilms. And so one of the things that you can look at is you want to make sure that you can get that biofilm broken free, and activated charcoal is one way. Glutathione, those are two things you can take on a regular basis to help get out some of the toxins from the Lyme disease. But Lyme, you're going to have, kind of this inability to focus, memory loss. You can have difficulty concentrating. You can be irritated, confused. You can feel spaced out a lot. You can feel foggy. You can feel overwhelmed, frazzled. I think the biggest issue of Lyme is we start thinking our brains are shutting down. I'm getting old, and that's what your doctor will tell you. But really, and it's one of the most devastating things that can happen. Mold exposure and Lyme just destroy your brain. And so how can we combat this? Well, one of the things you can do for Lyme is ozone therapy. And you can do ozone therapy in your nose. I've done it in my ears. You can even do it rectally. And then you can do injections. You can do IVs. But what ozone does is it inactivates bacteria, viruses, fungi, yeast, and protozoa by breaking through the cell wall, which weakens the cell. So then what happens is your immune system can move in, and your immune system can do its thing and start disrupting the patterns of the Lyme or the spirochetes or the mycotoxin that's in your body. And then the extra oxygen, it activates your body's immune system. So it's a really nice, powerful combination. And at East West, one of the most interesting new procedures that we're bringing in is ozone therapy. And Cade, we should have ozone therapy ready to go in the next week or two, right?
Yeah, next week.
Next week, we're going to be starting some ozone treatment. Ozone therapy, and we're using it for a couple of reasons, but one is to treat these tougher cases of Lyme and mold exposure, so we can get your body's health to the next level. The other reason is because ozone therapy has actually been proven to enhance stem cell proliferation and stem cell growth. It helps create better connective tissue, and it gives some more health for the blood supply for that particular injection. Not only that, but what the ozone does is it cleans out the joint, so it's a way of getting it prepared for your treatment. So get ready for some ozone. The other thing we're doing to treat mold and Lyme, and we've been doing this for quite some time now, is we do intranasal stem cells. So we use a product called Beave. And sorry, you guys can't see it right there, but Beave, that's the Beave there. Cade, can you wave to everyone on the Instagram world? There's Cade.
Hey.
Hey, he's got the biofilm rolling.
Oh yeah.
But if you look at using the Beave, one of the most important things is breaking through that biofilm. We talked about that. You can feel it on your teeth. And when you do stem Beave intranasally, what the stem cells do, there's live MSCs, there's exosomes in this product, there's these nice microRNA, and these things can get through the blood-brain barrier when we apply it correctly. And then the stem cells secrete a molecule called LL37. And this is not to be mistaken with LL Cool J, Cade. This is LL37. It's completely different than a rapper.
Dang it.
Sorry,
I was hoping.
Okay, so think LL Cool J goes into your brain, and LL Cool J, the beats are just so enticing that it causes those spirochetes to come out of the brain. I don't even know any LL Cool J songs, but then what happens is that biofilm gets broken up like the roof. You know, you raise the roof and then the biofilm splits. And then guess what happens? That LL37, it breaks up the biofilm and then it restores microglial function. Then your immune system just gets rid of those spirochetes. And guess what happens to the Lyme symptoms? They go away. All because of LL Cool J. So
that was a beautiful analogy. I
hope you guys
said it better myself.
Yeah, I think LL Cool J is sponsoring this webinar and Instagram story. So thanks, LL. All right. So here's what we've seen with this treatment. We had, I was at a stem cell conference early last year, and that's the first time I'd ever heard of using intranasal application of stem cells, because we've treated the brain, but it's very hard to break through the blood-brain barrier. And we know the biggest issue with Lyme is how do we get through the blood-brain barrier so we can actually get some live stem cells there, because the molecules are too large. When you do an IV, they stop in the lungs and the heart. If you're doing intrathecal, it's dangerous, and our bodies just can't quite handle that as well, you know, from an immune perspective. So when I learned that the best way to use it, it was from Arnold Kaplan. I was at the stem cell conference, and he said, yeah, the best way to treat the brain is intranasally. And so that's when the light bulb went off, because we've been using a device called a SphenoCath for years and had very good success with it. And what happened with this treatment is we ended up having a couple of patients who have been through the Lyme protocol. They've done everything, and we got them about 60% better, but they're still just kind of struggling, you know, run down. And so we ended up treating them with the stem Beave, and they went from having massive amounts of symptoms to virtually no symptoms in a matter of just a couple of weeks. I mean, it was phenomenal, because now that the LL Cool J can go into the brain, it breaks up the biofilm, the LL37 gets secreted. It's kind of like the cool thing about stem cells is they are communicating with everything in their environment, and they know exactly what secretion factors need to go. It's kind of like in Star Wars, where you have that big ship, and I don't know what it's called, like the super power ship or whatever, and then there's the little ships that go off that. You remember what that thing's called, Cade?
The mothership? I don't know.
We'll call it the mothership. Thanks. We're obviously we're really big into Star Wars, but that's what stem.
Oh, you're thinking the Death Star.
Is that what it's called? The Death Star. So that would be the Death Star for these spirochetes that get buried in our brains. And so once you break up those Death Stars, once you get that biofilm broken free, and then that's when your body can actually get those spirochetes out and your brain starts working again. So you even remember, Cade, at the Go Wellness event where we had a couple of our doctors there who had contracted Lyme. JR from Minnesota, Rudy from Brooklyn, and it just made a huge difference in their overall health.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's the other thing that you're going to find in stem Beave, and one of the reasons we use it to treat Lyme. I mentioned exosomes. So once again, it's like the mothership is the stem cells, and then the exosomes are like those little things that get secreted. And LL37 is just a tiny vesicle. There's RNA patterns that are combined in these exosomes that help create a new transcription factor in the cells around it. So that's how it brings new life to these cells. But there's also this powerful protein called TIMP2. And TIMP2 is a protein that's found primarily in the serum of the umbilical cord. And the TIMP2 proteins help regenerate neurons and decrease inflammation. So it's a great way if you've had neuronal damage from some of the byproducts or the off gases of the Lyme. then what will happen is the TIMP2 proteins can actually help regenerate the neurons and calm inflammation in the brain. And so we found that using this intranasally, not only do you get the exosomal factors, you get the stem cells, or as Cade calls it, the mothership, and then the stem cells secrete the LL37 to break up the biofilm. And then you get this nice restoration of the neurons with the TIMP2. And then all those microglial, the microglia are kind of like the guards on the neurons. And then the guards can get it activated and they can start doing their job. They clean up the mess and then your brain gets turned back on. It's a magical process, very easy to apply. So Cade, how you been feeling since you got your intranasal stem cell?
Really well. Yeah, it was, let's see, week and a half ago.
Yep.
Yeah, almost 2 weeks, but yeah, feeling really good. My long-term memory has been the one thing that was really, really impactful. Yeah, just being able to recall things way better.
Awesome. Good. Yeah, super powerful treatment. It's like nothing we've ever seen because, and I don't know that you have had Lyme, but I know you've had brain concussions, brain damage. Just having me as an older brother, I'm sure a lot of that had to do with me, which I want to publicly apologize for. But yeah, so awesome. All right, guys. Well, that's it for Lyme. I mean, think about the option that you've got. If you have mold exposure, if you have Lyme, and this is going to be everyone. Everyone's had some type of mold exposure, some type of Lyme. There is now a revolutionary breakthrough treatment that can change your life forever. And we've never seen anything like it. We've been able to accelerate treatments in this part of medicine so much faster because I've been looking at Lyme since I was working with Dr. Vincent. And the way we would treat it historically is like, let's get on some antibiotics as quickly as possible. And we're realizing now the antibiotics just aren't doing it. We get patients on antibiotics for up to a year if the first cycle didn't work. Sometimes that would help them a little bit, but then their gut's destroyed. And so now we actually have a way to treat it. The stem Beave is the most powerful application that we've seen for this, and it can break up those biofilms. And then if you're using synapsin, that is going to be incredible for long-term potentiation of the stem Beave, and it will change your life forever. So really appreciate everyone being on this. Next week, we're going to have a little bit more of a continuation on infectious diseases in the brain, so make sure that you show up for that. But not just the brain, but we'll have it throughout the whole body. So
Awesome. We'll see you guys same time, same place next week. And have an amazing day.
Yeah, watch out for that mold, y'all. It's
Bye-bye.
spring. The snow's melting.
See ya.
See you guys.